I've seen some content comparing prints to Gallery and Kaleido, but I kind of wanted to do a comprehensive one. So I've sourced all sorts of different types of print. So we can take a look at a magazine, a book, a graphic kind of comic, and a newspaper as well. And kind of see the nuances between Gallery 3 with the Remarkable Paper Pro here. This should be the best implementation of Gallery. And then we have the Pocketbook Inkpad Color 3 here. And then obviously we have a real life print here. So let's start with the Wired magazine. And I have pretty adequate lighting here. I have 3 lights going, so we should get the kind of ideal settings of what these should look like. Now, immediately, obviously, you will notice the vibrancy. So the greens and the yellows, very bright. And that brings us to the first point of the actual yellows. So Gallery is strongly suited towards yellow because of the CMY color model. And so yellow is one of the strongest colors on here. You'll see here it looks almost like a tan, almost like orangey. And here it's just very vibrant. And that's why Remarkable really wanted Gallery, I think, was just because of the yellow highlight. But you can still see pops a little more here. And then red, for example. It looks a little more brown or maroon on here than the red here. And Gallery is also not very well suited for red. The reds are kind of disappointing on here. But the green here is very vibrant, you can see. It looks almost like a forest green here. And then here the green is very disappointing. It's kind of very muted and just not a nice shade of green, to be honest. But the blues, you can see they're very sky blue here. Here they are almost a deeper blue, but neither of them is a vibrant blue like this. And then here's another interesting thing. So if you look at this circle here, you can tell that it has struggled with like gradation changes. And here you can actually see that it's a pretty smooth gradation change. So from there to there, well, let's wait for it to unflash. But you can see it's a kind of smooth there. And same here where you get that kind of flow of color that way. It is very segmented here. You can see there's like a band of almost like an orange yellow and then different bands of green here. And you can see what it's actually supposed to be like is more representative of this. But then interestingly, here you can see it's different colors, and here it's different colors, and then here it kind of blends together. And then here you can see the rose gold that's true to life here is very similar here. And there appears to be actually a lot more detail. I don't know if it's coming across camera, but it looks more detailed here. So let's actually go on to the settings here and do the adaptive. Let's see what that looks like. Okay, yeah, so it does look a little better, but you can see because of that predominant yellow, these do look relatively yellow, so that matches. But the rose gold is having an issue here because of the predominant yellow there. And then comparing the blues, honestly, neither of them looks very close to this, as you can see. But this is more of a dark blue, this is light, and the actual red here, you can see a little difference. Some yellow comes across in here, whereas this has no yellow. And then again, with that shading, you have some of the banding here, whereas this one's a little smoother, but neither of them is representing this card very well. So that's the Wired magazine. Now let's move on to newspaper, the Wall Street Journal. As Remarkable has stated,
you have never experienced a display like this before. It's an experience that's brand new on a digital device, but yet it feels familiar somehow, like a newspaper is being printed right before your eyes.
So let's put that to the test and see how it compares. So now we're on the Wall Street Journal. You can see Patel here. He does look a little muted here. Actually, let's turn on the contrast filter again. So it's off right now, and now it should be on. And so that kind of gray tone of Gallery does kind of give it a newspaper feel. It's actually, as you can see, it's even more gray than this. This is probably, the background here is more akin to this. But yeah, this is a very kind of red and blue photo. And so you can see the reds, the people really get washed out here. Whereas here you can still kind of see them. And the blues are relatively true to life here. But over here, the blues are very light. Like this little glass thing here, I don't know if you can see that, but I can see it in the Paper Pro here. Here it's like almost invisible. And so zooming in on the charts here, you can see this does not look green at all. This looks very green, actually pretty close to this. And that little blue there does look very similar too. This looks a little crisper too than this. But obviously, for something like a newspaper, having a big screen is nice. And so I know this isn't the same size, but in my opinion, this InkPad Color 3 is the best Kaleido panel I've seen. And so that's why I chose it for the comparison. Obviously, for things like a newspaper, you'd probably want something bigger or like a 10-inch, but this is a 7.8. But for the purposes of this demo, that's why I chose this. And so next up, let's look at a book, and then we'll take a look at the turtles after. So also just to give you a reference, this is what the panels look like plain and simple. So this is kind of interesting too. This is the stock color of the panels without a front light on. And you'll see in a second when I turn these on, the front light is maxed out here, and the front light here is at about 75%. And so what's interesting is actually, you saw how it was darker here than this when it was off. With the light, this is actually a lot whiter. So it matches more the tone of the white here than the gallery screen. So that must be some sort of reflection of the front light that's going on there to get those more pure whites, which I was actually surprised with. And so let's, again, we will go to adaptive. So it looks, honestly, this one just doesn't look good on this. Let's see if off. So the people look a little better now, but the contrast you can see isn't very good. So I'm gonna keep it with the contrast off so that the people appear a little better. We can take a quick look at the representations here. Biggie is very muted here. The red is pretty poor, as gallery has a bad representation of that. And then his skin tones look more true to life here. Here they're almost like a tan color. Then looking at Bonita Applebaum here, the green is very vibrant. This is not green, that just looks gray. So yeah, this actually looks really nice on here. And then this is actually interesting. These are green right here, which they are like a mint green here, and then they're just white here, or rather gray. For this book, I would say this is generally a pretty poor representation of this. This looks a lot cleaner and a little more, it just looks more vibrant in general, which is kind of odd. Even the yellow here doesn't appear very good. And these are the same source files, by the way. So PDF of this book. So let's look at one other page maybe. So looking at this, you should get an idea of the representation of the yellow. These are pretty muted pictures, and they actually both look surprisingly pretty good. I'd say they're close matches. And then on this Turtles graphic novel page, we have some interesting comparisons here too. If you look at Raphael, this is a very deep red here. The red here is almost like a more muted pink orange, and then here it looks more of like a burnt red. And if you look at Shredder here, the purple kind of matches closely here, and here you can see it looks more like a blue. But interestingly enough, with Shredder here, the purple is kind of lighter, whereas here it's more of a deep purple and closely matches this. And then with Leonardo here, you can see the deep blues are a little more similar to this, whereas in Kaleido, it's like this kind of very light blue. So they just look different. Also look at his boots. They're kind of almost like see-through looking here, but then here they're like a blue. And then the brown representation here, it looks more true to life here, and you can see some of the details in there, whereas here it's like that burnt maroon almost again, and you lose those details in there. And the kind of yellowish color here is more true to life here than here, where it's like a tan. So hopefully that gives you a visual representation of what prints look like compared to the actual Gallery 3 or the Kaleido 3 technology. If you want to check more videos on these devices, you can see them here. And thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.